Now, joining us on the program, very pleased to have with us the author of the brand new book, Saving the Bill of Rights, Exposing the Left's Campaign to Destroy American Exceptionalism, also the executive field editor of American Hunter magazine, Mr. Frank Miniter. How you doing, Frank?
Hey, Cam.
Hey, thanks very much for coming on the program. Good talking to you.
It's good to be here again.
All right, so tell us about your book, Saving the Bill of Rights, Exposing the Left's Campaign to Destroy American Exceptionalism.
Well, your audience knows about the Second Amendment and the attacks that have occurred there. But what's amazing, it's the same group, the same attacks, the same idea behind the same attacks that have occurred across our Bill of Rights, from the first all the way to the 10th, from the free speech all the way down to enumerated powers. The Constitution gives certain powers to the federal government, all the rest are held for the people and for the states. Those are being just sapped and taken away one by one. When I like to start, when I'm telling people about this, start from a big premise so they understand what's going on here, is that though we're a nation of rights built on a basis of a Bill of Rights, we've gotten lost in this idea of special interest in politics and really of minority rights, and we've forgotten that the smallest minority is actually the individual, and it's those individual rights that are solidified from our First through our Second all the way to our 10th Amendment.
Well, absolutely. And as you say, our audience, I think, not only up to date on the Second Amendment, I think most of our audience is pretty passionate about defending all of our Bill of Rights and frankly, all the rights that we enjoy, those that are enumerated and even those that aren't. Now, you talk about the campaign to destroy American exceptionalism. In what ways do you see this occurring, Frank? Because I'm sure, look, this isn't just legislative. It's not just through litigation. Really, any effort they can make in any arena that they can make. It seems like this idea of American exceptionalism is under attack.
Well, if you take the idea that the Bill of Rights, they're negative liberties. It sounds horrible to say it that way, but that's what they are. They're restrictions on government. They're not positive rights that the government has to give us. If you come for that general idea that that when our founders kicked out King George III, they didn't want to put a federal government in that then could have the absolute power to create rights and decide what these rights are. These restrictions on government. Government doesn't give rights. Government can only take rights away. When you come at it from that basic idea, you understand how they flipped it around now, and they're beginning to view all these rights from a perspective where they can change them and decide who gets what. We're on the air right now, and the fairness doctrine used to decide, and the FCC bureaucrats used to decide what was fair and balanced. Mm-hmm. Well, now they want to do that to our Internet, through net neutrality. The FCC just gave itself the power, and this summer they're going to come out with the regulations for how they're going to start that going forward. We've got hate speech, that it's really is thought control. It's treating different groups differently. We have all these extra rights created that it's very disingenuous and begins to really sap away what the individual rights are.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, back before John Edwards had been exposed as the kind of slimy guy that he was, and everybody just kind of thought that he was a slimy guy. It hadn't been proven yet. He sat down and did an interview. I think it was either at YouTube or at Facebook. This was back during the 2008 presidential primary, and they did this sort of rapid-fire questioning of John Edwards as to is it a right or is it not a right? College education was a right, healthcare was a right, internet access, I think, was a right. Second Amendment, I wasn't really sure about that one, Frank. It was really astounding to see, a politician claim that we have these rights that not only can't be found in the Constitution, but really can't be found in any sort of document of history that would show at any point in time were these things considered rights in a society.
Right. That's what Obamacare is. It's this positive right. It's this right where government has to give you health care. And then what do you find in that? You find an individual mandate that tells us we have to buy insurance that's approved by the government. Well, if you're going to do that, you can take the Commerce Clause and say that it means the federal government can make us buy a product. Well, then you've taken off the enumerated powers altogether, and the government it can make us buy anything. It can make us buy a Chevy Volt next if it wants to.
Yeah, yeah. And it's fascinating, Frank. I was reading a book the other day, History of the Great Depression, World War II, and ran across a section talking about Roosevelt's 1944 State of the Union address, where he called for a new Bill of Rights. And, this is quoted by progressives as some, big clarion call. Apparently, at the time, it went over like a lead balloon. His proposals were DOA in Congress. Nobody did anything with it, and it was seen as this sort of sappy political boilerplate language that really didn't have any heft to it.
Well, that's right. That was early on. I think it was 1942 when he did that. It hadn't. The people still believed in their freedom in this country. We hadn't gotten so far away that they no longer understood what these rights really were. And the court then, he was just really starting to reshape the court into a progressive court. So he really tried it too early.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so.
Obama thinks he can try it now, and he did with health care. We'll see how that goes, but it's going to the Supreme Court. But that's the track we're on. That's certainly true.
Yeah. So what do you think? What is the best way? And obviously, your book talks about various ways that we can fight back and we can defend American exceptionalism and really our individual rights. But what do you think is the most compelling thing that people can do before anything else, Frank?
Well, that's a tough. Let me just go to what Thomas Jefferson said about this, because I think this is the place to start. He said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. We have to understand what the Bill of Rights actually protects. I don't think a lot of people do. This audience, I think, understands more than most. We have to go and tell other people how that gets, and that's what this book is all about. But go and just read the text of the Bill of Rights. It's very simple. It's not simple, of course, what progressive justices have done to it. They've done some pretty complex things. When you're lying, you have to kind of obfuscate and to change the truth. But it's really a pretty simple document protecting our individual rights.
And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because Fareed Zakaria has been on a tear the past couple of weeks on his CNN show about the need to rewrite the Constitution and use
Look
Facebook
at the cover
and
of Time
Twitter.
Magazine right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, Time Magazine got it, and then over the weekend, Zakaria was at it again, and he said that one of the kinks in the American Constitution is that, quote, the Second Amendment is a grammatical mess, whatever you may think of the right to bear arms. So we need to update the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Frank, because it's just a grammatical mess.
Looking at the Second Amendment, I went and looked at the earliest dictionary we had that was approved by Congress, became the official dictionary of Congress in 1828, Noah Webster's dictionary, and looked at the definition of each one of those words, and I found out just by looking at the basic definitions, it's obviously an individual right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, the history, I think, is clear when you actually read it, and you can go back and you can read some of the amicus briefs in the Heller case and in the McDonald case and find out. I think really what the true history of the Second Amendment was, including at the time of the debates over the Constitution, and this notion, Frank, that either it's the Constitution and our Bill of Rights is outdated. That it's in need of some sort of cleanup. I think what it's in need of is perhaps some fealty to it. I think if we had some people who actually decided, let's work within this framework of government rather than work to find a way around it, I think they would be amazed at how vital this Constitution is today.
Well, it applies to everything, right? And you hear Justice Breyer say that about the Fourth Amendment. Well, he said George Washington didn't know about the Internet, so how then can the Fourth Amendment cover privacy on the Internet? Well, that's ridiculous. Just because our papers go digital doesn't mean that they don't have the protections of the Fourth Amendment.
Yeah. No, but that's really where they are right now. And I've heard that same thing with, the founders couldn't have envisioned semi-automatic firearms, Frank, and therefore we must ban them. We must go back to muzzle loaders. No, the founding fathers were. That's what I think is one of the things that drives me crazy. This false impression that people have of the founding fathers, that they would have been like cavemen exposed to fire for the first time. Look, they would have thought our world was incredible. They would have thought that, and frankly, I think they would have been proud more than anything of what this nation and what our people have become. But I don't think they would have been freaked out or frightened by technology. These were all men who embraced technological advances.
And these basic ideas, these basic freedoms as put down in our Bill of Rights, they easily apply now. Property, that hasn't changed, right? Firearms, that hasn't changed. Free speech, this hasn't changed. These are all applicable now. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, listen, Frank, I love reading your work, An American Hunter. Loved the Politically Incorrect Guide to Hunting. I'm a couple books behind right now in my summer reading, but I promise you that by the time school starts again, I will have completed my book report on saving the Bill of Rights, exposing the left's campaign to destroy American exceptionalism. Thank you so much for coming on the program, and best of luck with the book, man.
Thanks, Cam.
All right, Frank Miniter joining us here on Cam and Company.